So what we're doing today is finishing up the training on the process tools. So I'm going to go to the 4 functions here, and I'm going to go back to this customer complaint process, which is the process we used in the training last week. So in last week's session, we talked about the work plans and the checklists inside of the process tools page. And today we're going to continue by talking about the rest of the process tools. So before we do that, I just want to reiterate a few things about work plans and checklists. So I'm going to click this work plan. So a work plan is a step-by-step set of instructions, set of tasks on how that work is done. So you go in task order. To add a task, you hit this little plus sign, click open the task field, and then you write out the step. When you go from beginning to end to that particular step or task, save it, and then add task again, and create the second task or step. In your work plans, you should have as much detail as possible in order for somebody who doesn't know how to do this work could step in and hopefully be able to follow the tasks. In some cases, they may have to have more experience than that, or they may have to have watched someone do it for a while, but essentially they should be able to follow the steps and get the gist of how to run that process. Another point I just want to make quickly here is if you write tasks like this, where it's like a paragraph of information or sentences after sentences describing a task, it's better, as opposed to doing it this way, it's better to do it in a bullet point format. So I'm just going to hit the bullet icon here, and everywhere I have a comma or a period, I'm just going to create a bullet. Like here and here. So any tasks that anybody has written that you notice in your work plans that go with these run-on sentences or sentence after sentence, if you can, if it makes sense, put it into the bullet points. You can even do, by hitting this little icon here, you can create bullets of bullets like this. So when you look at this now, if I'm following steps, it's going to be easier for me to see it like this if I'm learning, as opposed to it being those sentence after sentence. So every process inside of TouchStone, with maybe a few exceptions, should have a work plan in it, because the work plan tool is the overall tool that kind of guides someone in the details of what to do. The processes may have checklists and scripts and these other tools that we're going to go over here in a moment, and they may not. It just depends on what the process needs. So if it has a verbal interaction in it, then you need a script. If you need some quality control, then you might have a checklist. If there's a document or a form that needs to be completed, then you can use some of these other tools. If that's not the case, then leave the process with just a work plan, and you don't use these other tools. Sometimes people look at all these tools and get confused and overwhelmed by how many there are. Well, the point is that you can choose what best fits that process, and if a work plan does it and it's good enough for training, then you don't use the other tools. Then we talked about checklists a bit. You can take a work plan like this one, and with this icon right here, one click, okay, then this converts to a checklist. So all TouchStone did was take the tasks of this work plan up here, this customer complaint processing, and put them next to checklist boxes. So after you've built the work plan, if you decide for yourself, I need some quality control for this, then with one click, you can turn this work plan into a checklist. Now, when you turn work plans into a checklist, you might be able to delete some of the extra information, like this right here. So I'd probably go into this and then delete all this detail and then save it. It just cleans up the checklist a bit. And if I need to remind myself how to locate the customer's invoice, I can go back here to this work plan and look at the details of that. In the checklist, it's just someone should have already been trained in this. They know the steps on how to do it. They've probably memorized it by the time that they're filling out the checklist, and then they can go in and just tick off these boxes as they do this, as opposed to looking at the checklist and having all the detail of how to do it. The detail of how to do it is in the work plan. So the checklist is just a reminder of what to do. Now, checklists can be completed on the dashboard, which I'm going to show you an example of that before we end today. Here is where we're creating the checklist. This is where I'm putting in the steps and building the checklist itself. Where it's used inside of TouchStone is over here on the dashboard. So let's talk about the next tool down, the script tool. So the scripting tool is used when you have a verbal interaction in the process. So there's an explanation of something that someone has to give verbally. There's frequently asked questions that need to be answered verbally. Somebody has to get their way through situations that occur. So you can have a script when there is a situation that's happening and then someone needs to deal with it verbally. So anytime you have that type of communication inside of a process or someone needs to communicate, then you can build a script for that. So I'm going to go back to the work plan to just show you how scripts work with work plans. So right here, we're going through and locating the customer's invoice. We're determining whether it's a warranty issue. We're doing a little if-then here. If it's a warranty issue, then go right to the complaint form, or if it's not, go to the complaint form. If it is a warranty issue, go to this policy. So that's a policy note, which is right down here. If it's not a warranty issue and it's an employee issue, is simply a job that wasn't done well, try resolving it using the providing a solution script. So this script right here is this one right here. So this is kind of how scripts interact with work plans. You're going through and documenting the tasks, and you get to a place where someone needs to call somebody. They need to explain something verbally. They need to answer questions. So rather than putting all that text of what they say in the work plan itself, we isolate it into a script, and we use the scripting template because this is a better template for training purposes for someone to see that conversation than the task of a work plan would be. So when you're building your work plans and you notice, okay, now they need to call somebody or now they're answering a question, go right up and build a script. Just put in the title for it. You don't need to document the script right then and there, but go put the title in and then make a hyperlink from the task to that script and then continue on with your work plan. So let's assume they had that conversation. Now what? How does it end? And build the rest of the tasks. So to build a script, it's the same as the other tools. You just click the title here and you put in the name of your script. Now you can put providing a solution script next to it if you want to. If you're naming scripts in the same way that you're naming work plans, like the same titles, then I think it's good to put script next to it. You're always going to know it's a script because it's under the script header here, and everywhere else you see that script in TouchStone. It's always under the header scripts. But if you do want to put script at the end of the title, I think that's fine. I wouldn't do that for every tool because it just becomes redundant. So I put in the name of the script, then I hit create. And now I've got a new script that's down here. So to build this, I'd think about what's the first thing, how does this conversation begin, if it's a conversational script, or what's a question that gets asked, if it's a Q&A script. So you hit add script item. If this was a conversation, 9 times out of 10, it starts with a greeting of some kind. So that's the prompt. The prompt is an explanation of what's happening. The question being asked, the situation that's occurring. So this is the greeting, and I hit save. And then I go to the script side, and I put in the words the person would say when they're greeting someone. So, hi, thanks for calling. Whatever you want that person to say in the greeting, you type the direct text in here. On the script side, it should be written how they would say it. So then I save that, and then I go to the second prompt and click this open. So after the greeting, what do they do? Do they need to figure out why the person's calling? Do they need to ask a question? So in the prompt side, you type in what situation is happening where they would lead them to the next thing they say. So I'm saying, why did they call? And I save that. And then I go to the script side and I say, how can I help you? So this is the exact words that the person is saying. So then the script in a conversational script just goes back and forth like that. On the prompt side, you can even put like how their voice is supposed to sound. So sound concerned. So whatever you whatever kind of tone you want them to have, or a tone of sympathy, a tone of concern, then you can put that in the prompt side as well. Because when I'm just reading this, how can I help you? If I know over here I need to sound concerned, then I would know how to say this in a different way. So that's how the scripts work. All of this is drag and drop too, so I can pull these up and pull them down to put them in a different order. So let's look over here at this providing a solution script. So this is just an example of a script. These are prompts that don't really go in a conversational way, but they're more just setting the stage of the situation. So if the customer is complaining because it took too long, or they're unhappy with the service, something that has already passed, there's little or anything we can do about it now. May I offer you a discount? That's kind of silly, but you get the idea. So you're building the situation that the person finds themselves in, and then you give them the words to say. In a conversational script, like this one kind of started out to be, it usually starts with this greeting, and then it's going to go all the way through the if-thens of the conversation to the end, where it's resolved or where the conversation is over. So if somebody is making a phone call or talking to someone one-on-one, trying to understand what's going on with them and then bring it to a resolution, or it's like a sales script where they're assessing the customer's needs and then presenting solutions to them, which is the services you sell or the products you sell. Those kind of scripts usually go in order with a greeting all the way down to a resolution. So the script itself should go in the back and forth of the conversation from the beginning to the end. Now, it doesn't happen, all conversations don't happen the same way every time. So I'm sure some of you are thinking that now. Well, it just doesn't happen the same way every time. It's true. Conversations don't happen the same way every time. But about 80% of the time they do, more or less. The only time that 80% gets mucked with is if your salesperson or your customer service person doesn't know how to guide the conversation. They let the customer go off on tangents, they ask the wrong questions, they say the wrong things, and then suddenly this 80% success rate goes down to 40%. And you're saying to yourself, we can't have scripts like this because it doesn't happen that same way every time. Well, what's happening is you're used to these variable kind of people messing up these conversations because they don't have guidelines for it. So my point is, if you build these scripts and you have that flow of the conversation go in the best way possible, where you know it could get to a resolution at the end, or you know you could get to a sale at the end if the customer is a qualified lead, and you train your salespeople or your customer service people or your managers, for that matter, to go through the workflow of it and to say things in a certain way, then that 80% success rate is going to be there for you. You're going to be able to train your employees. They're going to memorize the scripts. It will come out in their own words. We're not creating robots here, but they get the content of it. And then you have consistency. So in a conversational situation like this, a conversation that starts from the beginning to the end, oftentimes that remaining 20% where the conversation just gets derailed by things that may or may not happen, you can deal with that with a frequently asked questions script or sometimes we call these response scripts. So when we're leading somebody through the conversation, if it's a sales process, for example, some customers might say, well, that's too expensive. Not all of them are going to say that. If they are, then you have a problem with your pricing. But if some of them say that, then have a response for that. You don't want your salespeople to bring that up, so it's not going to be in the main conversational script. But if they do say that, then your salespeople have a response for it. So like in a frequently asked questions script, this would be the question or the issue, or they're saying too expensive, whatever it is. And then over here is what they say to that. How do they answer that? What is the answer to it's too expensive? What is the answer to the question? Then you'd go add script item, and then this is the second question. So these are questions or frequently asked questions that may or may not get asked by the customer or by the lead or by the employee. But by building a script that goes, an FAQ script that goes along with your providing a solution or your conversational script, you're giving more tools to your employees. And they'll be able to know if they do hear that question or they do hear that issue, how do they respond to it? This sometimes is what, in a sales and customer service environment, this is what makes a better salesperson or a better customer service person. So if you have positions like that, more than one, I'm sure you've experienced, well, this person's better than this person. This person says things better, they're smarter, they're whatever label you've put on that, one is better than the other, and it's the person. So what we're doing here is we're saying, so what is that person doing or saying, and how are they saying it, which makes them better? And then if you can capture that into your documentation, now you can train your other employees to be as good as that best person. If you don't do this, all of the experience over time that salesperson, the better one, has been generating and learning and accomplishing, you're paying for all that. And then if that person walks out the door, all your years, your sweat equity, your education, your failures and successes with that person, which caused them to learn, that all walks out the door with that person. So the way to make it not about the person, again, is to build it into your documentation. And scripting is a great way of taking someone's experience that they unfortunately have learned over time and putting it into something concrete that you can then transfer or teach another person. So that's the scripting tool. I've seen scripts, once you've put a script into this format where you've got the conversational script or the providing a solution, and then you have the frequently asked questions. I've seen these evolve in businesses over time and become just these hugely beneficial tools for training, particularly in a sales environment. Because if you're innovating it all the time and adding to it, you can ask your salespeople, if you hear a question or you found a way to figure out a way to respond to something that really worked, then let's talk about it in the sales meeting and put it into the process. So it becomes this kind of creative, innovative exercise that you do with your people and where they're contributing to the process. And a 5-question frequently asked questions script over a year could get to 20 questions that they're all coming up with. Next tool down is called uploaded files. So what this tool allows you to do is you can take documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, and PDF documents, and you can upload them to the process in TouchStone. So you want to use this if you've got a spreadsheet, for sure, because there's no other tool here that is a spreadsheet. There's nothing that runs calculations or adds or subtracts up numbers. So if the process has a spreadsheet in it, somebody needs to fill that out as part of the process then that's going to need to be an uploaded file. Same with a PowerPoint presentation. So if you've got something in PowerPoint, you'll have to upload that whole presentation because we don't have a PowerPoint presentation tool. PDF manuals, now you can take a PDF and cut and paste it into the document tool, and I'll show you how to do that. Or you could take a Word document and cut and paste it into the document tool. So that's an option. But if you want it in its original software format, you want it to stay a PDF manual, or you want it to stay a Word document for whatever reason, then you would need to upload that whole document to TouchStone. So to upload a file, you'd put in, I'm just going to call this marketing and sales because it's easy. So you put in the title, you hit choose file, and now I'm looking at my computer. I would go to the document and I hit open, and then you see it right here in the choose file field. That's how I know it's there. And then I hit create file, and now that document has been uploaded right here. So easy to upload a document. If I go to view a document, so I just clicked back on this customer complaint form here. If I hit view file, TouchStone's going to launch the software that this file was uploaded in. So this is a Word document. And when I select this, Word is launching, and then boom, here's my document. So whatever software format this was uploaded in, if it's in a spreadsheet, it's going to launch Excel, and then boom, it'll show you the Excel document. Now, this document right here, let's open it again, is now in Word. So if I go and make a change to this, so I'm adding text to it, or I'm making some type of edit to the document itself, then I'm going to need to save that document. So I'd go File, Save As. It's not going to let me do it. Let's view it again. I clicked something that made it go away. Okay, so here's the document. If I make a change to this in any way, I would have to go File, Save As. Now this is my changed document right here, and I would save it wherever I wanted to save it on my computer. So now that document's saved. It's saved in Word though. It's not in TouchStone, because when I hit View File, it opened it outside of TouchStone. So then I would go to this Edit pencil right here, and then I hit Choose File. I find my saved document, and I hit Open, and then I save it. So now I just replaced the old document with the new one that I made the change to. Now, if it's a form like this one was, like this form, if I'm on the dashboard and I view a file, I can fill this out, save it, and go and re-upload it to my dashboard. So in that example, I'm not making any changes to the text here. I'm not editing the form itself. I'm just filling out the information. So that's true of a spreadsheet as well. If you view a spreadsheet on the dashboard over here, like a template spreadsheet, and I fill out information into it, I'm not editing the spreadsheet itself, I'm just adding data to it, then I can save that and upload it to my dashboard. So then I have numerous versions of this template document, like a customer complaint form, that's filled out. But here inside of the ProcessTools page, if you want to make an edit to the document itself, the content of it, not the data being put into it, but the content, then view the file, make the changes, do a save as, go to edit, and replace the old one with a new one. So this whole thing about uploaded files and having to view it and then re-upload it is why if you have a PDF, pictures, or a Word document, and you can use the document tool, which we're going to talk about next, instead of it being an uploaded file, then it's preferable for it to be in the document tool. Just because you don't have to deal with the view file, now it's in Word, and if I make an edit to it, then I save it and re-upload it. So the uploaded file tool, use that for spreadsheets. Use it for Word docs and PDFs when you need it to be in that software format for whatever reason. Use it for PowerPoint presentations. Sometimes the uploaded file section is great because it's the place where people, your employees, can go and always know that the most current version of that file or form is there. So contracts, any kind of reports they use in Excel, the most current version of that document or that Excel spreadsheet or that PDF manual is always going to be in TouchStone in the uploaded file section. You all know what it's like to live on your networks where people are accessing your master documents and one person makes a change when you really didn't want them to, and now they're doing a file save as, and someone else comes along and looks at it and says, well, what's the most current version? I've got 5 saved as documents. Nobody knows. Nobody can find it. So this is one of the benefits of TouchStone. Keep your master documents all in the uploaded files section, and people always know they can go there to access them. So next tool down is called the document tool. And if I want to make a document, I just click the text, same as the other tools, and I put in the name of the document, and then I hit create document. So same as the other tools. Now you'll see I have a new document right down here. If I want to begin to edit the document or create it, I just click in this gray area where it says click here to begin adding content. Click it open, and this looks like a blank Word document. And this is why we call it the document tool. So with the document tool, you can do a lot of different things that you can't do inside these other tools. So one, you can cut and paste text in. So I can go, to a Word document and I could copy some of the text, and then I could go back to TouchStone, and then I could paste it in like this. So I could take a form that was in Word and just paste it into the document tool. I can put free-flowing text into the document tool. So this is just, typing like it's a blank Word document. So cutting and pasting anything in Word you can do. PDFs, you can cut and paste text from that and put that text in. You can use the document tool to put in like sample emails. You could write a letter, like a letter template, and have that be in the document tool. If you've got a list of things, like a list of rules or objectives or paragraph or like a written out vision for your business, your marketing strategy, your management philosophy, whatever it is, if it's in text, you can cut and paste it here into the document tool or write it in the document tool. You can build tables like this one using the table building row. So this has insert, edit, table, columns, rows, just like you would find in Word. You can also use the image uploader here to insert an image. So the image uploader works inside of the work plans and some of the other tools that you can put like images into into a task. But if you have a picture that you want to display 8.5 by 11, like you want it to be a big picture, then you can insert it using the image uploader right here. I could even take like a big screenshot like this one, take this whole picture, and I may not want this to be inside of a task because it would stretch the task out maybe. So I could go to the image uploader here. I just saved that image, and then I find the image and hit insert. And now you see how big this is. When I save it, you can see it even bigger. So anytime you have like a big picture like that, this is a great place to put it. And then you could even make a hyperlink to it up here in the work plan. You can say, view this picture. Some people or some businesses are really married to flowcharts. And we don't have a flowchart tool inside of TouchStone because we found that with training and documentation, the work plan works better because it's not just boxes leading to other boxes. You can literally see the written out steps that are done, and you can do if-then statements and hyperlinks to show the connections. But if you do really like flowcharts, you can build a flowchart in Visio or whatever you have, and then just take a picture of it, like I did with this. Take a picture of that whole flowchart, and then save it, and then upload the flowchart. And then you can point to it in the work plan. View the flow chart here, and you can have the flow chart. So the document tool is kind of like a catch-all for anything that you need inside the process that you can't accomplish with the other tools. The next tool down is called a custom form. So this is an example of a custom form. And what the custom form tool does is it helps you or allows you to create web forms. And when I call it a web form, I mean that it can be completed over the internet in TouchStone. So these fields I've created right here, when this form is accessed on the control panel by a position, by an employee, these are fillable fields where they can go in and fill in information. So they can write in the name of the customer complaining, they can put in the work order number, they can put in the telephone number, put in the address. And when they save it as something on the dashboard, like the customer's name or the job number or whatever they're instructed to save it as, it then saves that form back to TouchStone, and then reports can be run. So a manager could go and search for that customer's name or the number, and they would see a list of what was completed that was saved by that customer's name or number. And they would see these custom forms that had been filled out by employees. So anytime you need to capture information about what happened while the employee was doing this process, so in this example, when they were handling a customer complaint, they need to collect information or answer questions about how that went. These are great for quality control, like on the job site, if that's your kind of business. Even on the dashboard, employees can log in with their phones and go to these forms and fill them out and save them back to TouchStone. So if you want like a quality control, just a few questions answered on how did that job go when they left, then they can fill out these forms and save them. These custom forms are also great for HR things, for human resource things, like employee interviews. So you can have somebody filling these in while they're asking questions and answering questions, or they can do an evaluation of the interview at the end of the interview, and they're answering questions about how the interview went. And if you have ever been in a situation where you're doing lots of interviews in a day, having a way to remember that person and what they said and what you liked or didn't like about them is useful. And then it's also useful for your manager, because that person could log into the dashboard and they could review all the interview evaluation forms, and they could see in a tangible way, rather than you just telling them, what they thought of the candidates. It's also good in HR for new employee training or onboarding, because the HR person or the manager could keep a record of what's been happening with that employee. These forms are great for management purposes in general. So for keeping meeting notes, for keeping agenda forms on one-on-one meetings or department meetings. And then every week or every month that the meeting occurs, the manager fills in the information about what happened. And then when they go to prepare for the next meeting, they can review the last form and then carry the information over. Things like written warnings or even verbal warnings, these are good for these custom forms. Performance review. So a lot of different management purposes, as well as operational purposes, if you don't have another tool that does this. These custom forms are also great for creating tests. So we'll just do an example of one. So I'm going to click the custom form header. So this is how you make a custom form, same as the other tools. So let's call this a customer complaint test. So this is an employee test for customer complaints. So let's imagine you hire a new CSR, customer service person, and you put them in front of TouchStone on the dashboard, and you say, okay, study the work plans, read them, memorize them, get a sense of the workflow, memorize the scripts, view the files or view the forms and make sure you understand how to fill them out, read the policy, watch the video if a video exists, listen to the audio files, then spend 1 week listening to someone else do it, then take the test. So on the dashboard, the employee could access this customer complaint test and they could complete the test. So using these icons, this is how you build the forms. So short answer is a short field. It's like less than a sentence. So here the employee could put their name. We'll just do that for example purposes, and then hit save. So then this creates a little name field. If I want to go back and edit this, I just click on it and it brings me back to this field where I can edit or change it. Paragraph is for paragraphs of information, sentences. So if you want a larger field, then use the paragraph. And this stretches down here at the bottom to get bigger based on how much text the employee writes in. So this is the title field. And so here you could ask an open-ended question, like what do you do if the customer is mad? Something like that. So you'd ask an open-ended question. You can see how horribly I type. And you can even put a question mark next to the end of it, and then you hit save. And so then this question appears, and then this field is where they would answer it. Open-ended questions are great for tests because it causes the employee to have to think, not just answer the question, but think. Having said that, you can ask multiple choice questions, or if this was a customer quality assurance form, you could ask questions like, how did the job go? Good, fair, poor. So if I hit multiple choice, this is the question that you want to ask, and then you give the choices here, like good, fair, poor. You can even add more choices. So if I want to add a choice, I hit this plus sign. Oh, I just deleted that choice. The plus sign. So that adds a choice. As you saw, you can get rid of choices by hitting the negative sign. If I want to add another one here, I hit the plus sign. These can be reordered too. You can drag these up and down to adjust the order, and then hit save. So in a question like this, you might want to ask if it's fair or poor, why? So here you just hit the paragraph again and say, if poor, why? And then save that. And so then that field goes right along with this one. Multiple choice is where you can choose one answer. So when they go to use it on the dashboard here, they can only fill in one bubble. Checkboxes allows them to fill in multiple options. So here, again, this could be the question, or it could be an action to take, like finish the job or clean up after yourself. And then you can say clean, and then empty truck. So you're giving multiple options here. And then when you save that, when someone's on the dashboard here, they can go and check off multiple things that they've done, as opposed to multiple choice where they can only choose one. Then you have a drop-down option. So drop-downs are kind of good if it's a yes, no answer. So here's the question in the title field, and then we go yes, or we go no, and then I could delete this one because we don't need that third choice, and then when I hit save, it creates this little drop-down right here. You can also do the drop-down if you have lots of options that they have to choose one from, and it just kind of makes your form a little smaller rather than listing all the options in a multiple choice. You can have that appear in the drop-down. This is all drag and drop here too, so I can reorder all of this by moving it up and down. And again, if you want to edit, you just click on it again, and then this opens for you to edit. Right here, we're building the form, or we're building the test. Where it's used, because sometimes I see people click on it here to think that they're going to be able to fill it out. It's not used here. It's used over on the dashboard. So use a custom form tool when you want information about what's happened. Think about using it for testing when you want to have a test for the process. So the employee, they're demonstrating to you that they understand the process. I saw a custom form tool built inside of a hiring process the other day where they were hiring, I can't remember exactly the position, but it was an entry-level type position, and there were multiple people they needed to hire all the time. And they had the employee, they set up a user for the employee in TouchStone, had them go to the dashboard, and they completed the test. And it just kind of demonstrated basic competency, like, how does Microsoft Word work? And they had a few questions for that, and some other things about skills they were supposed to have before they were hired. And they had done that all inside of TouchStone on the dashboard, which I thought was clever. So this is the custom form tool. Next tool down is called the policy note. So to build a policy, same idea, click the title, put in the name of your policy. Keep your name short for your policies, because if you start to make this long, you're starting to describe the policy. I've seen that a couple times done. So just keep it a short name, like warranty guarantee policy or sales policy, or employee policy, employee manual policy. So I hit create policy, and now I click this little edit pencil, and these fields would open to build the policy. So here, the to and the from is always from one position to another. It should never be a person's name. It should be from management to all salespeople, or from HR manager to all admin staff. And then here you put in the effective date, or the date itself it was created, and then the effective date. Sometimes you give a week or something between the implementation of the policy and from when it was created. That's why there's an effective date, new and revised, and then you type in your policy statement here. So you want to use the policy tool when there is something just of the utmost of importance about the process, like it's something legal or compliance or safety related. It's something that the employee really needs to understand that they can't violate, that they need to follow this at all times, and there's a good reason for it. If it's just something they need to know about the process, you can always put it in the expectation section of the work plan. But if you want it to stand out to the employee, then put it in the policy notes section. Oftentimes I see new TouchStone users come on, and they've got a lot of documentation they've created over the years that is completely unorganized and unused for the most part. And then we take all of that and put it into TouchStone. And sometimes I'll see these big policy manuals that were created, and it's just like these comprehensive lists of all these rules. And not necessarily like employee handbook rules, because that does kind of belong in a handbook, but they're just company-wide rules about everything. I saw one that was like 50 pages long at one point. It was for the insurance industry, which is heavily regulated. There's all these regulations and rules. If you hand that to someone, what are they supposed to do with that? I mean, are they going to be doing the customer complaint process and then open that manual and like flip to the policy and just remind themselves? No, they're not going to do that. It's indigestible. So this is why we take policies that are specifically related to processes, and we put them in that process. So they're in that process. Like if you have a lot of safety requirements in your business or compliance things that you deal with, if you have a process on how to do safety meetings, say, you wouldn't want the fact that the meetings have to be done every week in another manual somewhere else. You'd want that policy in the safety meeting process. So put your policies, if you have that situation occurring, put your policies in the processes that they're related to. And the policy notes tool is a great place to put those. Last two tools are for uploading video and audio. I'm just going to leave this. So the MP3 format is pretty widely acceptable now. Like most recording devices will save to an MP4. But these other file types are also acceptable. If you can shoot a training video of how the process is done, if it's visual in nature, then do it, because it's an amazing thing for training if someone can see a visual. So even if you want to do it with your phone, you can take a video of somebody doing something, and then you can upload that video right here to the video tool. When you upload the video, it takes about half the time of the video, or maybe it's a third, I can't remember, for it to upload. But once it's uploaded, then it's in TouchStone. There's no loading time. You just see a play button and you play it and the video plays. So if the process is kind of visual in nature, like you can see someone doing it, then a great idea is to follow the work plan. So go through the steps of the work plan so it's consistent, and show someone as you follow the steps. That way they can follow the steps of the work plan and see it at the same time. You can do, welcome to the company videos. You can do welcome to the sales department videos. You can do screen capture videos. In Jing or Snagit, which is also a great tool, I can do screen capture videos inside of this free version. And if I hit capture video, it's giving me a countdown. And now Jing, if I was speaking into my computer through VoIP, would be recording my voice. And then I can go through and click here, go here, open this, do this, click here, open this system, go to this spreadsheet, click on this button, and then it's recording all of my movements and my voice. And then when I'm done, I hit finish. And then this could be saved as a screencast, and it could be a link, or you can convert it to an MP4 and you can upload this whole video to TouchStone. In the free version of Jing, they do 5-minute videos. So you have basically 5 minutes, and then you have to stop and then do another video for another 5 minutes. But in the other screen, like Camtasia, which is a software that we have, you can do hour-long videos if you want to, and then it automatically saves it to an MP4. But even in this free version that I just showed you, you can make videos. And then you take that video, you give it a name, you hit choose file, find it on your computer, hit save, and the video will load up and then be inside of TouchStone. There's no limitation to videos in TouchStone. You can have as many videos and as long as you want. Having said that, I think short videos are better for training purposes. So if I'm watching an hour-long video, I'm kind of unlikely to remember, if it's detailed, I'm unlikely to remember the things that happened in the first 15, 20 minutes. So think about making shorter training videos. People can absorb that information better if it's short snippets. It also allows them to go back and view specific parts rather than having to view the whole thing. Now, sometimes I see inside of TouchStone accounts, people have made these great videos and uploaded them, and then they're like, okay, it's done. Process documentation completed, yay. Well, it's not really done, because if you just have a video, it's not enough to teach someone thoroughly how to do something, generally speaking. I'm sure someone could prove me wrong, but for the most part, it's not enough. And think about it this way. If I do a 20-step work procedure and I videotape it, somebody doing those 20 steps, what happens if I forget step number 3? Am I going to rewind the video and try to find my spot all the way to step number 3 so I can remember step number 3? And by the time I did that, I'm going to forget step number 8. And so I've got a notepad and I'm writing down notes as I'm watching the video. Well, why don't you just save all that extra effort and error, cause for error, by just building the work plan? Build the work plan with the steps, and then somebody can read those steps and they can watch the video. There's no frantically taking notes that you can't read later. So you have to have the textbook, the work plan, along with the visual. It's just like the fundamentals of learning. The teacher comes in, whether it's a professor or an elementary school teacher, they're giving the students the book. They're meant to read it and understand it. And then she talks about it, she lectures, she teaches them like a manager would, and then maybe they watch a video too, which just brings it all home. So think about the videos like that, training videos. Audio is the same idea, except for it's an MP3 file. Most of our phones, every phone that's a smartphone, you can download an app for recording. So you can record people saying something in a certain way. You can record conversations on the phone as examples. Anytime a process has a script in it, like this one does, it's fun to do a role play of that script. How does it sound? That's key to learning about how to communicate. Learning how you sound, how you say things a certain way, and the result that that has. Oftentimes you can't grasp that until you listen to yourself or you listen to someone else. So you can do audio files on how to say things great and then how to not say them if you want, just for example purposes. So with this title, same idea as the videos, hit choose file, find the MP3, hit save. Audio files load much faster when they initially are uploaded to TouchStone than the videos do. So this is the Process Tools page. Before we end here, I'm going to go to the dashboard and show you some of what I was talking about around using things like checklists and custom forms. So I'm logged in here as the customer service rep. And if that was my position in TouchStone, in the business, then in TouchStone, I would have a control panel for that position. So over here in account administration, you would set up your users or your employees and then assign them control panels for the positions they fill. So when the employee goes to their control panel, even on a mobile device, then they see this. So these are all the processes that are on this customer service rep's control panel or job description. So here on the org chart, all of these processes have been linked to that position, and that's why I see them here in the dashboard. The reason it looks a little different is because I've created these groups. This is done by like stage for a salesperson. Stage 1, you do this. Stage 2, you do this. It could be like by subject area, like customer communications, and then the process is related to that. So these groups kind of help just organize the processes, not just strategic and tactical, but into more succinct work groups. So if I was handling a customer complaint, I could select this, and then I see all the tools that are in this process. So everything that we were looking at over on the Process Tools page, this is all the same information. All of it's the same. See this document I created, the test down here? Here, the employee is just looking at copies of it all. They can't edit or change anything here. They can just view it and use it. So I can also collapse and expand too. So when a process has a lot of tools in it, like this one does, sometimes it's easier to see things if you just collapse. And then if I want to just go to the work plan and kind of remind myself of what to do, I can look at it right here, and I can see the different steps. I would probably go to the checklist if there was one in there. And then here, now I'm seeing a copy of this checklist. And I would go and save these items as I did them. And then I hit save, TouchStone date and time stamps it. And now it's saved a copy of this checklist back to TouchStone. I'll show you the custom form. Going down here, here's the test that we created. If I click this, I'm seeing a copy of this test that we created. So I can choose one thing here, and then this is the drop down where you choose yes or no. I reordered these, that's why it's looking kind of funny now, but here they can put the employee's name into this field. This is a paragraph field, so this allows them to type in a lot of text. Here I can, in the checklist box, I can check off more than one that I did all these things. And then again, when I'm finished with it, I save it, and a date and time stamps it and saves a copy back to TouchStone. So there's going to be a whole webinar on this, but I just wanted you to see, since we talked about checklists and also documents, that how it's completed in the dashboard. With scripting, when I was talking about how you can get salespeople or customer service people to be adding things to the scripts when they come up with good ideas, they can do that in the dashboard too. So I could go to this script, and then I could make a note to my manager. We always put look at this, because then that manager knows when they see that it's something they need to look at. Then I can say add this to the script. and then put in what I want them to add. And as the employee, I'm saving this right now. And then my manager could go and run a report here before the sales meeting and look at all these different contributions that the sales staff has come up with for that week. And you can even reward people for the amount of notes that they make and ideas that they have. So right in here, by saving it, not only am I, being able to see the script right here if I need to refer to it, but I can make notes like this as well right in the dashboard. For policy notes, like this one we just looked at, you can even have the employee go to this and say, click on it, and then right here put, read and agree. And then they save it, and that's just evidence to the manager on this date and time the employee read and agreed to it. It's just good for verification purposes, and then if we ever have a problem, there's not this conversation of, well, I didn't understand it, I never read it. Well, you've got it right here that they read and agreed to it. So then you can start talking about, really why did they violate the policy. So there's a lot more to this dashboard, but I think you get the idea of this is where you use the processes. This is where you use it. In the few minutes, we have 1 minute left, but for those of you who want to hang on, I did say last week that we would talk about a process from the process library. So I'm going to spend like 5 minutes on that if you've got the time to hang on. So the process I wanted to talk about is this one called customer satisfaction. So this is in the library. If you go to operations or doing the business and you click add from process library right here, you'll find it in the general process library. So why I like this process is to do it now anyway, is these two go together, customer complaints and customer satisfaction. So when a customer complains, in a way it's too late, right? Because they're to the point that they're complaining to you about something not being right. So what that should be a sign to you of is that there's problems in these processes here in operations. There's some problems with those processes. At least there's one problem which caused that complaint to occur. Sometimes it could be in sales and marketing. So they're oversold something, or they're promised things that they didn't get. Or the salespeople just explained it wrong. And so then the work was done for them, and then they're complaining because of what their expectations were from these people here. Sometimes it could be finance admin. Maybe they were billed wrong, or that could be an issue too. But either way, this complaint is pointing to an issue in your processes. And the best way to deal with those complaints is to handle it with the customer with integrity, and then go to the process where that complaint originated and fix it. Spend the time to fix it. Go to TouchStone, go to that process. If it's not documented, then fix that problem and train people with it. It could be the minorest of things, but I'll guarantee you one thing. If you don't fix it then, it's just going to pop back up again. And every time it does, it's just costing you more and more and more. And the frustration is more and more and more, and your customer service suffers. So that's the way to use customer complaints to better your business. Now, of all the customers that complain, there is huge percentage more that don't. So here's some statistics right here. I'm going to glance for the one that says this is one on price. This is the one on customers who would defect to the competition if the problem is service related rather than price. So that's saying these are real statistics that I don't have the sources in all of them, but most of them I do. So this one's saying that, if you just think that your customers are leaving and going to your competition because of price, they're not. It's because of the service. These are some on the amount of money it costs you to get a new customer as opposed to keeping the customers happy. But this is the one I'm talking about right here, number 4. For every customer complaint, there are 26 other unhappy customers who have remained silent. We all know that's true because, unless you're a really aggressive person, you're not going to complain about every little thing for every little service you buy. Most of us just walk away and say, I'm never going to that place again, or they suck. So the customer satisfaction process is how you weed these things out. If you don't ask them, you're never going to know. So this is a step-by-step work plan on kind of like how to do surveys. Most of us don't complete surveys. Some people do, but most don't. So you got to call your customers. If you're in that kind of situation where you can, any amount of money you spend having somebody call at the end of a job and saying, "How did it go?" is money well spent, given all these statistics. All these statistics. These are in the process. You can download them and look at them. This is a lot of money wasted. A customer is the probability of selling to an existing customer is 60 to 70%. The probability of selling to a new prospect is 5 to 20. It's just money you're wasting. So think about quality and how to understand the customer's experience. So this work plan just gives like a little step-by-step for this. It gives, there's a checklist here if you want that. Customer satisfaction script. This is definitely a must. So the prompt, call the customer when you receive notification from the office that the job has been completed and paid for. If the job went well, this is what you say. Ask for a referral. This is another great way to ask for referrals or recommendations. Your SEO on Google will go way up if you get Google referrals. If the job didn't go well, then this is where we really want to listen and figure it out. This has also got, a sample email survey, satisfaction survey. It's also got an example of this called client service standards. This is a great thing to come up with your salespeople, anybody who's involved in customer service. What are the things that we believe in? What are the ways we're going to treat our customers? The customer is not always right, but you can always do what's right. So I think that's a great customer service standard. We always do what's right. It doesn't necessarily mean the customer is always right, but we as a company have the integrity to do what's right. So setting standards like this can really guide your customer service process. And in the end, I think, it's just important for everyone to realize that it's not just about doing it, get the work done, sell it, do it. It's about the quality, and that's what makes a lasting business. So again, this is the customer satisfaction process, and you can download this from the library. It's not going to be perfect for you just the way it is, but it'll give you a guide or something to edit and kind of make your own. Next week, we are going to be talking about account administration specifically. So over here, we're going to discuss the user list, how to create users, how to restrict their access, what access is, how to assign control panels, how to assign the right control panels, the account settings, how to use those. I'm also going to discuss a little bit in that section about the public processes right here, a little more about what those are, what becomes a public process, how to use the public processes. So that will all be next week.